Welcome to another edition of Ranking the Albums. And today we have none other than White Lion. I am going solo today, so I'm going to walk you through the top five studio albums. And we're going to start off with number five, which is the one album that should have never been released as a White Lion album. And that would be Return of the Pride, which came out in 2008. It's the only album to feature not the original lineup, pretty much. No Vito Bratta, and it's just Mike Tramp and a host of others, including Troy Patrick Farrell on drums, who's pretty well known, and the bass player Klaus Langeskov, who also helped produce the album along with Mike Tramp. The album failed to chart, so that tells you a lot right there. But nevertheless, it does have some good songs on it. Uh, Nothing too catchy like previous White Lion releases, but Tramps just seem to have updated the sound on this album. It's a little bit heavier, darker, a little bit modern. Not as catchy, the songs. That's the only downside, but nevertheless, we do have a few highlights here that I will point out. One is Dream, and the other Live Your Life, which were the two singles released, and Never Let You Go, another slower song that definitely kind of fits the White Lion mold, but just done, a little more modern, like as opposed to the ballads of the past. So there you have our number five choice. That will take us to the number four choice, which would be the debut, which is Fight to Survive from 1985. Came out as far as charting, it did end up charting at number 151 on the Billboard charts. Only Vito Bratta and Mike Tramp are the only ones from the band that actually appear. They used other guys on the album, but by the time the album was released, Greg D'Angelo and James Lamonza were in the band. They just didn't play on the album. Broken Heart, definitely the best song on the album without a doubt. Fight to Survive, another standout on the album. All the Fallen Men as well. Those are the three that really stand out. Peter Houk produced the album, and it's the first time we got to hear White Lion, and obviously, like Vito was saying in many of his interviews, it took from that time period to Pride. He really, really picked it up as a guitar player, and definitely learned a lot. And as you could tell from Pride, definitely. But nevertheless, a solid debut. At the time when it came out, and it was enough to get him on the charts. So that was definitely good. All right, so that was number four, Fight to Survive. Our number three is going to be Main Attraction, which came out in 1991. So obviously, this came out right in the middle of the whole change of the music scene, and the band was definitely feeling it. Um, on this album, it did make number 61 on the charts, but obviously nothing to match the success of the prior two albums. Although it did have several decent songs, we'll go with them real quick. The re-record of Broken Heart, much faster paced, a lot more commercial sounding, and definitely the standout on this album, along with the other single, Love Don't Come Easy. Those are definitely two of the big songs on the album. The opener, 8-minute opener, Lights and Thunder, another one that you know hard to open with a really really long song when you're not even known for long songs. But nevertheless, Lights and Thunder is definitely a solid tune. I would also give Till Death Do Us Parts, another great ballad, and You're All I Need, another standout track on the album. It was produced by Richie Zito, who produced a lot of other people, so he's definitely a known producer. And the sad part about this was that after this tour ended, which wasn't a big tour, the band broke up after the show in Boston. by that point, Greg D'Angelo and James Lamanzo had already left the band, and they left it right when it came out, pretty much. So they had other guys playing on the tour with them, and obviously it just wasn't the same. And with the grunge coming in and everything else, they decided to call it a day. So this album is, definitely one that has a lot of negativity and dark clouds around it. Nevertheless, um, I think it's kind of long too, so I definitely think it kind of, if they would have chopped it down to maybe the top 9 or 10 songs on the album, maybe it would have fared better. It's definitely a little too long in the tooth there for my liking as well. So main attraction is the number 3. We're going to give you our number 2 ranking here, and that is going to be none other than the 1989 release, Big Game, which was the follow-up to Pride. It peaked at number 19, certified gold. A lot of highlights on this one. Produced by Michael Wagner. Highlights on this one, we'll go with obviously the leadoff single, "Little Fighter," which peaked at only number 52. Shockingly, that song is definitely a standout. Has a lot of cool lyrics to it in the song, and unfortunately, the song just didn't catch people like their previous album did, because they just couldn't seem to crack the top 40 on it. I think one of the mistakes was the second single that was released, which was Radar Love. Although it did peak at 59, and it's definitely an improvement on the original in my estimation. Um, it's just kind of hard to totally fall all over a cover that, it's just, you heard it a lot everywhere before, and they made a video for it. It definitely got a lot of airplay on MTV, but I just felt there was a couple other songs on here. If they released them as the second or third singles, I think the album perhaps could have done a lot better. And one of those songs is definitely the underrated heralded gem, "Going Home Tonight," which definitely it should have been a top 40 hit. I don't know why they waited to the third single to release it, because at that point, with Radar Love only making number 59, and it didn't improve on the Little Fighters 52, pretty much from there the album just went right down. Yeah, so the album just kind of tailed off as after that Radar Love, unfortunately. Other standouts: "Living on the Edge," "Let's Get Crazy." Um, this album, it just didn't really have, the weight or the "Tell Me" or the "When the Children Cry" like the previous album, although they had a couple songs that were close, but just not enough to propel it into the platinum status, which was what you always were shooting for back in that time period, especially after you had to follow up Pride, and that was something that they were unable to equal or match, unfortunately. So that does bring us to our number 1 White Lion album, and that is Pride. Came out in 1987. Made number 11. That's their highest charting album. Double platinum, which was propelled there. It was a late bloomer. It took them 7 months to really push it on MTV. The single was out for that long before they really started to play it. But once they did, the song took right off, and then they followed it up with "When the Children Cry," which also cracked the top 10. Wait cracked in at number 8. "When the Children Cry," number 3. So that's 2 top 10s. You're pretty much guaranteed a platinum album at that point. And it actually went double platinum. And "Tell Me" was another big song for them. You saw a lot of that one on MTV for the video, peaking at number 58. Album remained on the charts for a full year. Once again, it was produced by Michael Wagner. That's why he was brought back to do the follow-up, Big Game. And just an overall solid release. I mean, you got gems on here: "Hiding," that didn't really get much airplay, like Hungry and Lonely Nights. Of course, Lady of the Valley, another gem there. They did release All You Need Is Rock and Roll, which was another standout track on the album. But I probably would have picked one of the other songs before that one. So yeah, so there you have it. The main three albums, Pride, Big Game, Main Attraction. They all featured lineup, the same lineup: Mike Tramp, Vito Bratta, drummer Greg D'Angelo, and of course bassist James Lamanzo. So these guys definitely made a lot of great music in such a short period of time. It's just a shame they weren't able to go further. Obviously Mike Tramp did. He went on the Freak of Nature, and then he ended up doing 14 solo albums in his career, which one day we'll rank them all. That will be a feat down the road there. I believe he holds the record for the most solo albums made, as far as any of the singers from any hair bands. And believe it or not, a lot of these were big albums over in on the Danish charts over in Denmark, where he's from. And he's had a very successful solo career, although he doesn't get, there was times when he didn't get a chance to get over here in the U.S. much to play, and lately he has gotten that chance, but he's focusing in on the White Lion songs, which is understandable because there's been many years where he just didn't do anything with White Lion. And his solo material, while it is very strong, it just doesn't have it's not impact as much here in the States as you would go overseas and see, how big of a crowd he draws and everything. So, maybe we'll get lucky and he'll come over and do a solo material show down the road. But right now he's just focusing on the White Lion, which is understandable. He remade the album, of course, Mike Tramp's songs of White Lion, where he sings them a little differently, more to match his voice of 2023. And yeah, definitely a great sounding album. And definitely White Lion. It's a great album if you really like White Lion. I think Mike Tramp did a great job on redoing those songs. So yeah, kudos to him. And and there's your White Lion ranking of the catalog.